The great hall fell silent as Daniel Martin walked through the massive doors. His footsteps echoed against the walls that stretched higher than Earth's tallest skyscrapers. Above him, the ceiling seemed to disappear into darkness. Around him, hundreds of alien eyes watched from shadowy galleries. He adjusted his tie. It was a simple black one, nothing fancy. His suit was just regular polyester from a store back home in Chicago. The other delegates had laughed when they saw it. To them, it probably looked like something from a museum. "You come before the Galactic Council," a voice boomed from everywhere and nowhere. "State your name and purpose." "Ambassador Daniel Martin, representing Earth and the human species," he said into the translator device clipped to his chest. His voice came out in dozens of alien languages simultaneously. "We request full membership in the Galactic Council." A sound like breaking glass filled the hall. It took Daniel a moment to realize it was laughter. High Overlord Zethix stepped forward on the raised platform. His crystalline body caught the light, sending rainbow patterns across the floor. He was beautiful in a terrifying way, like looking at a living gemstone that could crush you without effort. "Membership?" Zethix's voice dripped with amusement. "Tell us, human, what makes your species worthy of joining the greatest civilizations in the galaxy?" Daniel tried to keep his voice steady. "We've achieved faster-than-light travel. We've unified our planet under one government. We've cured all major diseases and eliminated poverty. Primitive technology," something with too many eyes interrupted. "We mastered space travel when your species was still living in caves." "And your medicine?" Zethix tilted his crystalline head. "Show us your medical technology." Daniel pulled out a small device. "This is our latest portable healing tool. It uses focused energy to repair tissue damage and fight infection." "That toy?" Zethix waved a glittering appendage. "Our medical scanners can rebuild entire organs in minutes. Your device is like a child's bandage compared to our High Overlord." A thin serpentine alien slithered forward. "Their weapons. Surely they must have impressive weapons." Daniel hesitated. He knew this would come up. "We do have defense technologies, but we prefer peaceful solutions to..." "Defense technologies," the serpent repeated mockingly. "Show us your most powerful weapon." From his briefcase, Daniel produced a small silver cube. "This contains plans for our antimatter warhead. It can..." The hall erupted in laughter again. Zethix's crystals vibrated with mirth. "Antimatter? How quaint. We use quantum decoherence weapons that can unmake matter at the atomic level. And your ships? I suppose you're proud of those pathetic little vessels that barely manage 0.1. Light speed? 0.7, actually," Daniel corrected, then immediately regretted it. 0.7, Zethix mimicked dramatically. "My children's toys move faster than that." Speaking of children, the High Overlord gestured to several pods along the walls. Children of various alien species pressed against the viewing windows. Their eyes, some round, some multifaceted, some like spirals of light, all watched the human with fascination. "Even our younglings see the truth," Zethix continued. "Your species has nothing to offer. No technology we need, no wisdom we lack, no strength to add to our forces." Daniel felt his face flush with anger and embarrassment. He'd known this would be difficult, but not this humiliating. Still, he had one more thing to say. "We offer our perspective," he said quietly. "We offer cooperation. We offer friendship." "Friendship?" Zethix's laughter now sounded genuinely amused. "What use have we for the friendship of those so far beneath us? Your optimism is entertaining, I'll give you that. Perhaps we could keep your species as pets or court jesters." The other delegates joined in the mockery. Energy beings flickered with what might have been amusement. Floating gas clouds contracted and expanded in what Daniel guessed was their version of laughing. Even the children in the viewing pods seemed to be giggling. Lisa Williams, standing behind Daniel with the rest of the human delegation, watched it all carefully. She was Earth's best xenobiologist, and her trained eye caught things others missed. While the adult aliens mocked Daniel, she noticed the Varkeen children were different. They weren't laughing at all. One of them, a small crystalline child, with softer, less developed facets, even looked sympathetic. "Your petition is denied," Zethix declared. "Return to your little planet, advance your technology, learn your place in the universe. Perhaps in a few thousand years you might evolve, enough to deserve our attention." Daniel stood still for a moment. Then he straightened his spine and gave a formal bow. "We thank the Council for their time. We will return when we have more to offer." As the human delegation turned to leave, whispers followed them. Some laughed, about human arrogance. Others speculated about how long it would take before Earth destroyed itself, as so many primitive species did when they discovered space travel too quickly. Lisa lingered, taking one last look at the viewing pods. The sympathetic child was still watching, its crystalline hand pressed against the window. Their eyes met for just a moment. The child tilted its head in what might have been a question, or maybe confusion. Then security bots herded the delegation out. In the corridor, away from the main hall, Daniel slumped against the wall. That was even worse than we expected. "At least they didn't blast us to atoms," joked Steve Parker, the military observer. "Might have been more merciful," muttered Patricia Lee, the diplomat who'd spent years preparing for this moment. "Did anyone else notice the children?" Lisa asked. The others looked at her blankly. "The alien children," she continued. "They watched us differently than the adults. One of the Varkeen kids, the young one with the soft-looking crystals, it didn't laugh. It seemed interested, curious, maybe even compassionate." Steve shrugged. "Kids are kids everywhere, I guess." But Lisa kept thinking about it as they walked to their ship. She'd studied xenobiology for 15 years. She knew that cultural attitudes weren't always universal within species. If one Varkeen child could see humans differently, their ship, the Discovery, was small compared to the alien vessels in the docking bay. It looked like a cork next to battleships. As they boarded, Lisa took one last look at the massive structure of the council building. Somewhere in there, alien children watched the stars, asking questions their parents might not want to answer. And maybe, just maybe, some of them wondered why the adults laughed so hard at the humans who came seeking friendship. That thought stayed with her during the 3-day journey back to Earth, even as her colleagues planned their report of failure. While they discussed technological improvements and diplomatic strategies, Lisa filed away her observations about the children. Sometimes, she thought, the most important things happen in the margins of history, in the moments between grand pronouncements, in the quiet questions of children too young to hate what their parents fear. Back on Earth, the news spread quickly. Humanity had been rejected by the galactic community. Some people felt ashamed, others angry. Many demanded isolation, insisting that if other species saw them as inferior, then Earth should focus only on its own advancement. But in a small office in the xenobiology department of Harvard University, Lisa Williams continued her research into alien child development. She requested all available data on Varkeen family structures, childhood education, and social hierarchies. Her colleagues thought she was wasting time. The Varkeen had made their position clear, but Lisa remembered those crystalline eyes watching her with something other than contempt. And somewhere in the vastness of space, High Overlord Zethix dismissed the human encounter from his mind. It had been a momentary amusement, nothing more. His empire stretched across 1,000 systems. His power could reshape planets. What possible concern could he have about one backward species on the edge of known space? Neither he nor the Council could know that this day's mockery had planted seeds that would someday topple the foundation of their perfect, unchanging, crystalline order. The human delegation had failed to join the Council. They had been laughed at, dismissed, and sent away. The Varkeen returned to their business of maintaining order in the galaxy, confident that their empire would endure as it had for millennia. But change rarely announces itself loudly. It whispers first to those who know how to listen, and sometimes, children hear the whispers that adults miss. 3 years would pass before the next intersection of human and Varkeen paths. 3 years of human improvement, of alien complacency, and of one crystalline child growing older while holding memories of the day visiting strangers came asking for friendship. 3 years until everything would change because of a chance meeting in the light of a dead star. But that story would have to wait. For now, humanity returned to the shadows of the galaxy, bearing the sting of mockery, but not yet broken. The stars turned. Time flowed. And somewhere, in the grand structure of inevitability, the pieces of a cosmic chess game were already moving into position for a match no one yet knew they were playing. 3 years had passed since that embarrassing day at the Galactic Council. Earth's government declared those years as the Great Advancement Period. Every research lab worked overtime. Every scientist pushed for breakthroughs. They wanted to prove the aliens wrong. But something unexpected happened during those 3 years. Humans found friends in quiet places, not among the grand species of the Council, but among those who were also considered lesser. These were the types of beings the Council ignored at their meetings. The first friends were the Corthians. They looked like walking rocks with veins of glowing mineral running through their bodies. They mostly worked as miners, hired to dig for rare metals on difficult planets. The Council treated them like tools, useful but not important. Humans met the Corthians on a deep space mining station. The Corthians were impressed that humans actually spoke to them as equals. They weren't used to that. Over shared meals, of Earth food and Corthian crystal soup, the two species discovered they thought alike. Both valued hard work. Both cared about fairness. Both had been looked down upon by superior beings. The Corthians had something the Council didn't realize: technology for making earthquakes. They could shake planets apart from the inside. It was old technology to them, something they used for mining. But the Council had always seen them as just basic workers, never paying attention to their skills. The second friends were the Faxi. The Faxi were beings made of mathematical energy. They lived as equations and talked in numbers. To most aliens, they seemed strange and useless. They had no armies, no great cities. They just existed as living math problems, drifting through space. Humans met the Faxi near Jupiter. A human science ship detected their energy patterns and tried to communicate. While other species had given up trying to understand Faxi thinking, humans kept trying. They used complex math to talk, slowly building a friendship through shared equations. The Faxi understood quantum physics better than anyone in the galaxy. They could calculate probabilities that let ships move in ways that should be impossible. But they kept this knowledge secret from the Council species, who had treated them as curiosities rather than allies. The turning point came on July 15th, 3 years after the Council rejection. Captain Stephen Wright commanded the mining vessel Aurora, a bulky ship designed for asteroid collection. They were working near a collapsing star, looking for rare elements created during the star's death. The ship's alarms suddenly started blaring. "Energy signature detected," announced the computer. "Unknown vessel in distress." Stephen rushed to the control room. His crew of 12 gathered around him. They were a mixed group: engineers, miners, one medic, and several people who just wanted to work in space. "What are we looking at?" he asked Lisa Chen, his lead engineer. "It's an escape pod," she said, pointing at the screen. "Small, crystalline design. Varkeen, maybe?" "What's it doing out here?" wondered Jason Miller, the navigator. "Varkeen space is months away." "Who cares?" said Monica Rodriguez, the medic. "Someone needs help." The pod was tumbling through space, clearly damaged. Its energy signature was fading fast. Without help, whoever was inside would be dead within hours. "We have to save them," Monica insisted. "We also have a mission," countered James Wu, the security officer. "If it's really Varkeen, they might not appreciate our help. Remember what happened at the Council?" But Stephen had already made up his mind. 3 years of rejection couldn't kill human compassion. "Bring it aboard. We'll figure out the rest later." The Aurora carefully pulled the escape pod into its cargo bay. The pod was beautiful. Crystal sides that shifted colors like oil on water. But up close, they could see the damage. Large sections were cracked. Energy leaked through like blood from wounds. Monica suited up in protective gear. The pod's atmosphere scanner showed it contained something alive, but barely. She had never worked on Varkeen biology before, but emergency medicine had universal principles. The pod's door opened with a hiss. Inside, curled up among golden cushions, lay a young Varkeen. It was smaller than the adults they'd seen at the council. Its crystal body was softer, less sharp. Several facets were cracked, leaking a fluid that was neither blood nor mineral. "It's just a child," Monica whispered. She carefully lifted the unconscious being. The child was surprisingly light. It felt like holding a warm gemstone. As they moved it to the medical bay, its eyes opened, for a moment. They were the color of stars, filled with fear and confusion. Then it went limp again. For 3 days, Monica worked to keep the child alive. She studied every file humans had on Varkeen biology. She reached out to the Korthians and Faxi for help. The Korthians provided mineral supplements that might help repair crystal structures. The Faxi calculated optimal healing equations to maintain the child's energy balance. "Why?" the child asked on the 4th day, speaking in broken standard language. "Why help?" "Because you needed it," Monica answered simply. "I am defective," the child said. "My family sent me away. They say I think wrong." The crew gathered in the medical bay. The young Varkeen looked at them with those starlit eyes, clearly expecting mockery or anger. Instead, they saw curiosity and kindness. "What's your name?" Stephen asked gently. "Kethnar," the child answered. I was supposed to die out here. That's what they wanted." The crew felt a mix of anger and sadness. How could any species abandon a child? "What do we do now?" James asked quietly. "We can't just return a young prince to people who sent them away." "We definitely can't," Stephen agreed. "Kethnar, would you like to stay with us for a while?" The child's crystals brightened with hope. "Really? But my thinking is wrong. I don't believe Varkeen are superior. I think all species should work together. That's why they sent me away." "Then you'll fit right in here," Lisa Chen smiled. Over the following months, Kethnar learned about human life. The Aurora continued its mining work, but now with a young alien aboard. The crew taught their guest about Earth customs like movie nights and game tournaments. They showed him how humans solved problems together, not through dominance, but cooperation. Kethnar was amazed by everything. He watched in wonder as Monica used primitive medical tools to help injured crew members. He learned that human technology, while simple, was adaptable and practical. Most importantly, he saw how humans worked, with other inferior species, treating everyone with respect. "Your scanning devices," he told Lisa one day in the engineering bay. "They seem simple, but they're easy to fix and modify. Varkeen technology is powerful, but breaks if you look at it wrong." He also shared Varkeen technology that the crew could understand and use. Simple things at first: better energy storage, more efficient ship shields. Kethnar was careful not to reveal too much too quickly, worried about getting his new friends in trouble. Meanwhile, Earth's diplomats discovered something interesting. Many species the Council ignored were developing quiet friendships with humanity. The Joxians, who looked like living paintings, began trading their art for human literature. The Sklinth, silicon-based life forms, started exchanging scientific data with human researchers. These weren't formal alliances. There were no treaties or military partnerships, just mutual respect and helpful exchanges between beings tired of being considered inferior. 3 months after finding Kethnar, the Aurora received a distress call. A Korthian mining vessel had suffered a critical failure in an asteroid field. Their primary engines were dead, and they were drifting toward a particularly nasty space-time anomaly. "We're the closest ship," reported Jason. "But that anomaly, our ships aren't designed for that kind of stress." "The Korthians helped us with medical supplies," Monica reminded everyone. "We have to try." "Wait," Kethnar spoke up. "I know that type of anomaly. Varkeen ships go near them all the time. I can adjust our shields to handle it." Stephen looked at his young guest. "Are you sure?" "Yes, but I need everyone's help. It's not just Varkeen technology anymore. It's what I've learned from humans, too." Working together, the crew implemented Kethnar's modifications. Lisa helped adapt the alien technology to human systems. The FAXI, connected through long-range communication, calculated the optimal approach path. Even the Corthians they were trying to save provided data about their ship's position and condition. The rescue was dangerous, but successful. As the Aurora pulled the Corthian vessel to safety, Stephen realized something important. They weren't just saving miners. They were building something new, a network of species that helped each other regardless of what the Council said. "We should have a name," suggested James that night, as they celebrated the successful rescue. "For us, for what we're building." The Alliance of the Forgotten offered one of the Corthian miners who had stayed for dinner. "No," said Kethnar, firmly. "You're not forgotten. You remember each other. You remember kindness." His crystal body glowed softly as he thought. "The circle of equals, that's what you are." And so it began, not with grand declarations or formal ceremonies, but with simple acts of helping. A human ship saving Corthian miners. FAXI mathematicians solving engineering problems for all their friends. Species that the Council considered unimportant quietly building bonds based on mutual respect. Kethnar grew stronger and wiser. He learned human customs while never forgetting his own culture. He studied everything he could access about Varkeen society from aboard the Aurora, beginning to understand how the Empire really worked. The more he learned, the more he worried about what he had discovered. Back on Earth, Lisa Williams continued her research into Varkeen social structures. She corresponded with Kethnar through secure channels, learning about his people through the eyes of someone who had lived among them. What she discovered troubled her deeply. The circle of equals was growing, but so was their knowledge of a darker truth. The Council's power structure wasn't what it seemed. The superior species relied more on image than truth. They feared change because change meant their control might slip. What none of them knew yet was how soon everything would change, how one small act of kindness could trigger a sequence of events that would shake the foundation of galactic civilization. But for now, they continued their quiet work, building friendships, sharing knowledge, preparing, without realizing it, for the day when the choice would come between safety and doing what was right. The Aurora continued its rounds through space. Its crew now expanded to include not just humans, but beings who had found family among the stars. And somewhere in the vastness of the Varkeen Empire, High Overlord Zethix remained unaware that one of his own children had learned to value something more than power. 5 months after finding Kethnar, Earth received another invitation to the Galactic Council. Ambassador Daniel Martin read the message 3 times to make sure he understood. The Varkeen High Overlord wanted humanity to witness what he called the celebration of unity. "It's a trap," said James Wu during their security briefing. He'd been promoted to intelligence officer since the last diplomatic mission. "Probably," Daniel agreed. "But we can't refuse. We need to understand more about the Council's politics." "Lisa," William stood up from her chair. "I'm going with you this time. I want to see more of Varkeen culture firsthand. The request says we can bring our full diplomatic team." Daniel nodded. 8 people maximum. The team included Daniel, Lisa, Security Officer Martha Green, Cultural Specialist Robert Johnson, Negotiator Frank Davis, Photographer Ellen Chang, Communications Expert David Brooks, and Medical Officer Dr. Karen White. They would represent Earth at the capital of the most powerful empire in the galaxy. The journey took 2 weeks in their newest ship, the Endeavor. It was faster than the old Discovery, but compared to Varkeen vessels, it still crawled through space. They spent the time studying what little information they had about the celebration of unity. "From what we can gather," Robert explained to the team, "it's an annual event where the Varkeen show their power by making conquered species perform for their entertainment. They call it cultural exchange." David added bitterly, "But really, it's just humiliation." Kethnar had told them about these celebrations through secret communications. "Don't show fear," he had warned. "But don't make them angry either. Just watch and remember." The Varkeen capital appeared on their screens exactly like the image files suggested, a planet of crystalline towers that touched the clouds. Everything sparkled like diamonds, but the beauty felt cold and sharp. High Overlord Zethix greeted them at the Grand Landing Plaza. His crystalline body had grown even more elaborate since their last meeting. New facets caught the light in hypnotic patterns. "Welcome, humans," he said with false warmth. "Come witness true civilization." The human team followed their Varkeen guides through massive corridors. Everything was huge here, designed to make visitors feel small. Even the air seemed different, carrying a slight ozone scent that burned their noses. They were taken to observation pods above the Great Spire of Prosperity. Below them, a vast circular arena gleamed white. Thousands of Varkeen filled the audience, sections, their bodies creating a constantly shifting display of rainbow light. "The celebration begins," Zethix announced, standing in a special box that gave him the best view. "Today you will see how we have brought peace and prosperity to the galaxy by guiding lesser species to their proper roles." The first performance began. Insectoid beings from the Threx system scurried across the arena floor, building complex geometric patterns with their bodies. The Varkeen audience clicked appreciatively. The guide explained that the Threx had tried to rebel 50 years ago, but now willingly demonstrated their skill in mathematics as a form of worship. Next came the Gorvak singers. These were elephant-sized beings with voices that could shatter crystal. But here, they sang Varkeen hymns of praise, their powerful voices reduced to background music for holographic displays of Varkeen history. Lisa watched everything carefully, her mind cataloging each detail. She noticed patterns others missed. The way the performers' hands shook slightly, how they never looked directly at the Varkeen audience, the way their traditional costumes had been modified to incorporate Varkeen symbols. "Now for special entertainment," Zethix proclaimed. "The children of failure." A chill ran through the human delegation. What did that mean? 7 children were led into the arena. They represented different species the Varkeen had conquered. Each child wore thin, tattered clothes despite the arena's cold temperature. Their bodies showed signs of poor nutrition. "These are young refugees," the guide explained, cheerfully. "Their parents failed to pay proper tribute to the Empire, but even failures can entertain us." The children were instructed to demonstrate their species' natural abilities. A Threx child calculated complex equations while being pelted with small stones to test concentration. A Balak child, whose people were famous for their sense of balance, had to walk across a beam that shocked them randomly. But it was the 7th child that brought everything to a terrible head. "And now," Zethix announced, "the Theran will show us her people's agility." A small girl was pushed forward. Her species had silver-blue skin and long, flexible limbs. Therans were natural acrobats, able to climb sheer walls and leap impossible distances. But this child looked exhausted, her skin pale and dry. "She hasn't eaten properly in days," Lisa whispered, horrified. The child was directed to a narrow ledge high above the arena floor. There were no safety measures, no nets, no protective energy fields. She was to perform acrobatics on a surface that was barely wider than her foot. "Jump, little Theran," Zethix commanded. "Show us your remarkable balance." The girl climbed, slowly to the ledge. Her movements were careful but shaky. The human delegation watched in growing horror as she began her routine. She moved gracefully despite her weakness, flipping and spinning on the narrow surface. Then it happened. The girl reached for a hold that wasn't there. Her foot slipped. She began to fall. Time seemed to move in slow motion. The Varkeen audience gasped, then began to cheer. To them, this was the climax of the show. The fall would either end dramatically, or the child would use her last strength to save herself. Both were entertaining outcomes to them. But Lisa Williams didn't think about entertainment. She didn't think about diplomatic protocols or consequences. She only saw a child falling toward death. In the 3 years since the Council rejection, humans had developed new technology they kept secret. Among them was a portable gravity dampener, designed for emergency situations. Lisa had one hidden in her jacket. She pulled it out and activated it instantly. A shimmer filled the air. The falling child suddenly slowed, her descent becoming gentle. She landed softly on the arena floor, confused but alive. The hall fell completely silent. "I couldn't let you die," Lisa said, even though the child couldn't understand her. Zethix turned to face the human delegation. His crystalline face showed confusion, then rage. His body began to glow with internal energy, a sign of extreme emotion. "You dare interfere with our entertainment?" His voice echoed through the entire arena. Lisa stood up in the observation pod. She felt her teammates' shock, but also their support. Daniel moved to stand beside her. One by one, the entire human delegation rose together. "We dare protect a child," Lisa replied firmly. "Any child." "That child is not your concern," Zethix spat. "She is property of those who failed to serve." Her fall was justice, entertainment, and lesson combined. "There's no justice in watching a child fall to please an audience," Daniel said. "No civilization worth the name treats children as disposable entertainment." The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Other council members began arriving, drawn by the commotion. They whispered among themselves, some confused, others angry. "You violate sacred cultural practices," Zethix declared. "You use your primitive technology to disrupt our order. This is an act of aggression." "Saving a child's life is only aggression. In a world that's lost its way," Karen White, the medical officer, spoke up. "Let us help her. Let us feed all of them." Zethix's guards moved to surround the humans, their energy weapons powered up, humming with potential destruction. The situation was escalating fast. "Leave now," Zethix commanded. "Take your ship and return to your sector. Do not return. If you refuse, we will consider it an act of war." The human delegation stood their ground for a long moment. Lisa clutched the gravity dampener, watching as medical bots took the Theron child away for treatment. At least she was alive. "We'll go," Daniel finally said. "But we won't forget what we saw here today." As they were escorted from the building under heavy guard, Lisa managed to download data from her device. The gravity dampener had recorded everything: the fall, the save, the entire hall's reaction. On their ship that night, the team sat in stunned silence. Ellen Chang's photographs told the story visually. David Brooks had recorded all the audio his equipment could capture. "We can't just leave this alone," Martha Green said finally. "What they did to those children." "What can we do?" Frank Davis asked. "We're outmatched in every way." "We know people," Lisa reminded them. "The Corthians, the Faxi, the Circle of Equals, and we have evidence of what the Varkeen really are under all that crystal beauty." "But starting trouble with the Empire," Robert Johnson worried. "We didn't start anything," Daniel said firmly. "We saved a child. If that causes trouble with the Empire, maybe the Empire is the problem, not us." Over the next days as they traveled home, they discussed options. They could quietly share what they witnessed with their allies. They could continue building relationships with other species. They could prepare without being obvious about it for possible conflict. But they also knew something had changed. By saving that one child, they had drawn a line. The Varkeen now saw Earth as potential troublemakers rather than just ignorant primitives. What they didn't know was that the recording of the incident was already spreading through unofficial channels. Species across the galaxy were talking about the humans who had broken protocol to save a child's life. And in a secure facility on the edge of Varkeen space, young Prince Kethanar watched the footage with crystal tears forming at the edges of his eyes. His suspicions about his home empire's true nature were being confirmed in the worst way. "They're coming," he whispered to himself. "They'll make the humans pay for showing the truth." He began making plans of his own. He couldn't let his human friends face the Varkeen Empire alone. He knew secrets that could help them, secrets that might change everything. The galaxy was dividing into two sides, though most didn't realize it yet. Those who believed might made right, and those who believed some things were worth protecting regardless of power. And it all began with one doctor's refusal to watch a child fall. The humans returned to Earth carrying more than just shame from rejection now. They carried a burden of truth, the weight of compassion, and the certain knowledge that sometime, soon they would have to choose between safety and standing up for what they knew was right. The choice was already made. They just didn't know it yet. The message arrived 3 days after the human delegation returned to Earth. It appeared on every communication device, in every language, across known space. The Varkeen High Council demanded that Earth surrender Dr. Lisa Williams and all human gravity technology immediately. They called the incident at the Great Spire a violation of galactic law and cultural sovereignty. "They're making an example of us," James Wu said during the emergency meeting. "This is bigger than just the gravity device. They want to crush any species that questions their way of doing things," added Martha Green. Ambassador Daniel Martin looked tired but determined. "The Galactic Council meets tomorrow to rule on this. They've already decided, of course. The Varkeen control too many votes." Lisa sat quietly, knowing she was at the center of this storm. "I won't let Earth suffer because of my actions. Maybe I should—" "No," Karen White interrupted. "You saved a child's life. We don't negotiate with bullies." What happened next surprised everyone. The day before the council meeting, a transmission burst through every communication network in the tier. "Galaxy." It came from Kethnar. "I am Prince Kethnarzin of the Varkeen royal family," the transmission began. "I speak truths that will anger many of my people, but silence has become a greater crime than speech." Across the Varkeen Empire, citizens stopped what they were doing to listen to their missing prince. "The technologies our empire claims as our own were stolen from the species we conquered," Kethnar revealed. "Our quantum processors came from the Nexari, our plasma weapons from the Krill, our stellar navigation from the Zental. For 1,000 cycles we have built our power on the innovations of others while claiming superiority." The transmission included data files, technical specifications, and historical records, proof that the Varkeen had taken credit for countless inventions they hadn't created. "Our military might comes not from our superiority, but from the enslaved labor of conquered worlds. The mining colonies they think are voluntary. Workers are taken as children and never return home. The volunteers for dangerous experiments, prisoners who choose between death and serving as test subjects." Camera footage showed hidden facilities, captured by Kethnar during his youth in the royal palace. Places where inferior species worked in terrible conditions to maintain Varkeen luxury. And the council? They plan to eventually enslave all species. Humans are only the first to openly resist. The plan was always to wait until all were dependent on Varkeen technology, then reveal the truth. Serve or die. The transmission included private council recordings, showing Varkeen leaders planning the gradual subjugation of every species in the galaxy, discussions about which civilizations to target first, which to keep as pets, which to eliminate entirely. "I have lived among humans," Kethnar continued. "They showed me that compassion is strength, not weakness, that cooperation builds more than control ever could. They saved my life when my own family left me to die. I will not let lies destroy them." The recording ended with coordinates and times. "Meet here if you stand with honesty. Meet here if you believe in a galaxy of equals." The reaction was immediate and massive. On Varkeen-controlled planets, citizens demanded explanations. Some believed the accusations, others called Kethnar a traitor poisoned by human thinking. The Empire's perfect image cracked like one of their crystal towers. Within hours, the Korthians broadcast their support for Earth. "Humans treat us as equals," their clan father announced. "They ask, not demand. They trade, not take. We stand with them." The faxi followed. In complex mathematical equations that took hours to translate, they essentially said, "Varkeen logic contains errors. Human logic remains consistent. Truth supports truth." More species joined. The Sklinth, whose silicon bodies had been used as living tools in Varkeen factories. The Marvin, whose children had been taken for education and never returned. The Theron people, after seeing footage of one of their children saved by human technology. But it wasn't just about humans anymore. It was about every species that had suffered under the promise of order that was really oppression. The Galactic Council tried to meet anyway. Zethix took his place on the high throne and called for order, but half the member species didn't attend. Those who did found their councils divided. Even among the Varkeen delegation, some crystals gleamed less brightly. as if their bearers were questioning things they'd never doubted before. The human Dr. Williams must surrender, Zethix insisted. She violated sacred law. What law protects watching children die? A voice challenged from the audience. It came from a Varkeen in the visitors section. More Varkeen stood up, adding their voices. Order! Zethix demanded, but his power had visibly diminished. Later that week, Earth received unexpected visitors. Not the warships everyone feared, but refugee vessels. Korthian miners whose contracts had been terminated for supporting humanity. Theran engineers who refused to work on weapons they knew would target Earth. Even a few Varkeen, including younger members who felt their society needed fundamental change. We won't let you face this alone, the Korthian clan mother told the human diplomats. Among the refugees was the Theran girl Lisa had saved. Her name was Zyla, and she now worked as a translator. My people want to help, she said shyly. You saved me. Now we save each other. Earth's military began preparing, not for conquest, but for defense. Admiral Patricia Collins made it clear. We fight only to protect. We claim no territory. We want peace, but we won't submit to slavery. The preparations revealed how much Earth had learned from its allies. Korthian mineral technology strengthened ship hulls. Faxi mathematical models, improved navigation systems, combined human ingenuity with alien excellence created something new, weapons and shields designed purely for defense. But the most important preparation was communication. Earth opened channels to every species, sharing what they knew about Varkeen plans. They offered no demands, no threats, just truth and an invitation. Stand with us for freedom, or stand aside. We won't force anyone to fight. The response surprised even Earth's leaders. Mining guilds from 12 systems pledged support. Scientific enclaves offered research assistance. Trading cartels said they'd supply resources. Some even offered military aid, though Earth tried to discourage direct violence from those who could avoid it. Kethnar worked tirelessly from a secret location, coordinating resistance within the Varkeen Empire. He had sympathetic ears even, in the military. Younger Varkeen who had questioned the old ways found courage in his example. My prince, some called him. Others whispered, traitor. But he continued broadcasting truth across Varkeen space. Meanwhile, Lisa Williams became something unexpected, a symbol. She didn't want the role, but her simple act of saving a child had sparked something larger than herself. People across the galaxy called her the child saver, or the first protector. I just did what anyone should have done, she insisted during interviews. That's exactly the point, responded Amanda Pierce, now Earth's Minister of Interstellar Relations. You did what anyone should do, but what too many were afraid to do. You showed that kindness isn't weakness. 3 weeks after Kethnar's broadcast, the Varkeen High Council made their decision. They declared humans to be enemies of order and demanded total surrender of Earth. The Council gave humanity 7 days to comply. During those 7 days, something unexpected happened. The deadline united not just Earth, but its growing circle of allies. Species that had been rivals for centuries found common cause. The shared threat revealed shared values. On the final day, Earth's answer came not as words, but as action. When Varkeen scouts appeared on the edge of the solar system, they found not a defenseless planet, but a united fleet. Human ships stood, alongside Korthian mining vessels modified for combat, Theran scouts, and even a few Varkeen ships whose crews had joined Kethnar's movement. The scout ships retreated without firing. Their reports would shake the Varkeen military command. Earth wasn't alone. The inferior species had united. In the Varkeen capital, Zethix received these reports with growing fury. His crystalline body pulsed with energy as he made his final decision. Prepare the war fleet, he commanded. We will destroy Earth and make an example that no species will forget for 10,000 cycles. But he didn't know that his own people were divided, that some Varkeen now questioned if destroying a planet of children protectors was the path of true civilization. that Kethanar had placed loyal operatives in key positions throughout the military hierarchy. As Varkeen war machines prepared for departure, Kethanar sent one final message to his human friends: they're coming. The full might of the Empire, but they also come divided. Faith, not fear. Truth, not surrender. Earth began its final preparations. Not just military, but spiritual. In every major city, ceremonies of unity were held. Humans, Korthians, Therans, and others stood together, sharing food, songs, and promises of mutual protection. In her apartment in Chicago, Lisa Williams packed a simple bag. She knew where her place would be when the fighting started. In the medical stations, helping the wounded regardless of species. She had started this by saving one child. She would continue by saving as many as she could. The galaxy held its breath. Two philosophies were about to clash, not on a battlefield, but on a principle. Could compassion stand against conquest? Could cooperation defeat control? The answer would reshape the stars themselves. As this chapter of preparation closed, a new one was about to begin. The war that nobody wanted but everyone saw coming. The war that would prove once and for all whether kindness could triumph over cruelty, whether love for children could protect them from Empire's hate. 7 days had passed. The Varkeen war fleet was coming. Earth and its allies stood ready. The final test was about to begin.